Damien Barrett and welcome to the 2016 wash-up for the Melbourne Football Club. A credible 10 wins for this team, and finally there's some genuine young talent coming through. Matthew Lloyd.
Yeah, Dame, I think they made significant ground this year, but the way they finished their season, losing to Carlton and also Geelong by over 100 points, I think it really damaged their season at the end. They should be looked upon like St Kilda, but they're not because of the way they finished their year.
Yeah, it's funny how you look at those last two games. I'm still choosing to look at it as a collective, and sure, those last two games are the freshest, but I think the 3 years under Paul Roos, if you take out games 65 and 66 of his coaching reign, I think it's been a really good 3 years, and I think the future is as bright as it's been for this footy club for a number of years.
Yeah, that's a fair call. What's your highlight though, Damien?
Look, I really like what Jack Watts did, Lordo. For several years, I reckon 3 or 4 years in a row, we talked about him in trade period as being gettable, and he was, and yet he decided to stick it out. There were offers that he had in front of him, and I really liked it, Lordo. Look, he's a really good person. People who know him well say that about him and have said that throughout his life, but what we've now seen is a good footballer that they used their pick one on many years ago now, and it was good to see him come through. This game was the one, wasn't it, Lordo? Took the onus of responsibility to kick that goal, the match-winning goal, and then I think even more significantly, importantly, had enough guts to run back right to the other goal line to take this match-saving mark, and it was just a really good year for him.
I agree with that. One of the feel-good stories of the year. Mine was to see them at the MCG beat Hawthorn, a side they haven't beaten since 2006, and I thought they've arrived, Melbourne. So that's why I was disappointed with those last 2 weeks, because they played tough, hard footy. They took it to Hawthorn, they beat them on the outside, but they couldn't back it up the week after. But that was my highlight that day.
Yeah, we've touched on these last two games already. We're going to do so again in my lowlights. It was that Carlton loss in the second last game of the year when the score ended up that way, and that was the only win Carlton had in their last 11 matches of the season. That in itself says something about where that club was at. They clearly weren't ready to play finals, despite going into that week being talked about as a potential finalist. And then we saw the disaster of the next week against Geelong down there at Geelong. So, look, they're not ready, but they're thereabouts, I reckon.
My highlight was after beating GWS at the MCG in round one, to turn up to the MCG and lose to the Bombers. Really, you always thought it was going to be hard for them to play finals when you drop a game to a team that wasn't going to beat too many other clubs. Paul Roos actually made the statement that we've been big-headed, and it was round two, which you thought, have they not learnt anything over their previous few years at Melbourne? So that was a real bad loss. You should
seem to sharpen them up, though, didn't it, strangely enough?
I suppose so, but still, when no one else is losing to them, it was always going to have them a game short come finals time.
Look, I really like what they did over the collective of 2016, and as such, out of 10, Lordo, I'm going to give them a nice, healthy 6.
Yeah, I'm a bit hard at Damo. I'm giving them a 5, just because you still cannot accept the 10-win, 12 losses season at Melbourne.
OK, Christmas bonus time, and to me it's pretty easy. I hope I probably haven't taken your candidate off your hands here, but Max Gawn, All-Australian ruckman, the only big man, only ruckman nominated in the initial squad of 40 and then clearly made the squad. Look, he just came of age, didn't he? It happened early, it crept up on us. This game here, the Queen's birthday game, I think was the one against Collingwood just a moment ago, where he just announced himself as elite, and he continued it throughout the course of the year.
It's why these ruckmen are so valuable. You look at guys like Lobie and Billy Longer, why they're struggling at the moment. They can't do damage around the ground. He's like Goldstein and Nat Nui now, which is a great company to be in.
And stayed true to himself, didn't he? Like he did it with fun and flair, and just stayed very much true to who he has always been as a person. Yeah.
Speaking of flair, the word flair comes with Jayden Hunt. I just look at this pace, this vision. It's exactly what you look for now in a running half-back flanker. And if he went on the open market, I reckon there'd be 17 clubs who would want Jayden Hunt, because just that run-down pressure and that pace to run off half-back. It's sort of what Andrew McLeod started back many years ago, putting a player like with pace and skill off half-back. And Hunt beat Surioli even late in the year, so it was a great fight.
Hard to believe he didn't get a nomination for the Rising Stars somewhere throughout the course of this year.
Yeah, it was disappointing for him and Melbourne, but I think that doesn't matter in the scheme of things for his future.
Yep, there's going to be a few on the chopping block, Lordo. I think Karedia Lumumba is one who falls into that category. The latest VFL concussion that he received now about 6 or 8 weeks ago, as many didn't play for the rest of the year, so I don't think he'll be there in 2017. And also Jack Grimes, who was once captain of this footy club. The fall from grace from him is of a nature that I think he may well be better off looking elsewhere.
Lumumba does have a few years to go. They'd have to reach a settlement or something.
Some sort of arrangement,
For mine, I think there's too many guys who have gone past these players. Chris Dawes, Lyndon Dunn, Colin Garland and Cam Pedersen. I think they'll struggle. They're just probably list cloggers now at the club, so I'd be surprised if any of those guys are at the club next year.
Doing the wash-ups, we try and bring something funny that happened throughout the course of the season. You seem to have targeted these ruckmen, and you've done so again here, Lordo. The All-Australian ruckman is going to cop it here.
No, I'm more targeting Matthew Nichols here, but Max Gawn is just part of it. So it's a bad bounce. I reckon he's more frustrated with his bouncing.
We haven't hindered them, mate.
What did he say?
Well, he's, I don't know what Gawney was saying there, but just that look at his the mad stare. I love that moment.
Okay, they need to improve on a number of areas, and one such area that I think will make 2017 easier, and obviously beyond that too, Lordo, is Jesse Hogan recommitting to the footy club, yet to do so. And if it drags out in the early stages of 17 and then even into the latter ones, it's just going to be one of those situations that I suppose inhibits what they can get to because of the unknown.
Do you think he'll stay?
I don't think it's any better than 50-50 right now. We know he's contracted for next year, so you lock that away. But the lack of noise out of his camp and him himself means he's unknown. And look, I think if we had a thought about this a year ago, it would have been catastrophic to think of him not being there. But I think they showed enough without him playing really well for a lot of the year, that there's a future with him without him or with him. It's a good situation to be.
I'd agree with that. And my think what they have to step up is it's time to walk the walk, really, and stop teasing. When you've got players like Hogan, Petrarca, Viney, Brayshaw or Oliver all coming through, they can't put in performances the way they finished. And they'll shock you at times, beating Hawthorn, but then they'll dip back down. I'm sick of those years for Melbourne, and it's time for them to put up or shut up next year.
Fair enough. Well, okay, where will they finish next year, Lordo, by way of going up, down or stagnating?
I've got them stagnating. I still don't think they're ready to play finals, which would be a major disappointment next year. What about you?
Yeah, I'm pretty similar. I'm really buoyant about them, but I think under Simon Goodwin's first year, I've got them just stagnating. So around about that 10-win mark again.
Yes.
Thanks, Lordo.
Thanks, Dana.
And that's the wash-up for the Demons in 2016.